The man walked into a ruin out of curiosity. In the flowers, he found a sleeping, charming girl. Instantly captivated by her, he decided to take her home. However, their destination was not an ordinary city. A disaster called the Tears of the New Moon had forced humanity to flee underground, where they built a high-tech, futuristic city. Just as everyone celebrated the rewards of the adventure, Kanata had quietly brought the girl home. Strangely, no matter how much he called her, she didn't respond, appearing to be in deep coma. So Kanata decided to examine her body first. At that moment, a woman's voice suddenly came from outside. It was his friend Ellie, accompanied by her Magus Ange. Ellie disapproved of Kanata's obsession with junk, so she wanted him to get a synthetic Magus. This way, he could join the Adventure Alliance like them and pilot the latest mecha. However, Kanata refused, believing himself to be the weakest. Ellie had repeatedly invited him because she liked him. Suddenly, Ange opened Kanata's room and screamed. Seeing this, Kanata quickly explained that the girl was the one he found in the ruins. He had brought her back because he had never seen that model before, and he hadn't done anything inappropriate to her. Furious Ellie turned and left, though she was actually heartbroken. Then Kanata asked the girl to take a shower first. The girl was indeed an AI android Magus, possessing independent thinking ability and a human-like appearance. However, the girl before them had lost her past memories, so Kanata took her to meet Maria, Ellie's sister. Although Maria was the most famous repair technician here, she had never seen this outdated model before. Kanata then told Maria that the girl not only had lost her memory, but also couldn't even dress herself. Moreover, her body wasn't as strong as other androids, and she would stumble even when lifting slightly heavy objects. After understanding the situation, Maria asked the Magus behind her to conduct a detailed examination of the girl. However, the system scan showed everything was normal. At this moment, the girl asked what a Magus was, so Maria patiently explained to her that in this world, to pilot a mech, one must have their own Magus, and the mech pilots who cooperate with Magus are called drifters. Then Maria thought the girl's clothes didn't look good and gave her a set of the same outfit as her assistant. However, the girl took back the coat Kanata had given her and put it back on. But just then, Kanata received a security alert. The city was being invaded by monsters called Enders. The number of enemies was too large, so ordinary firepower couldn't resist. Upon hearing this, Kanata immediately rushed to support, and the girl followed him. Meanwhile, the Enders have already broken into the base. To prevent them from entering the residential area, the city's leader, Mam, led her team in desperate resistance. However, the Enders kept pouring into the base. Seeing the situation worsening, the Adventure Alliance immediately came to support. The latest mecha is indeed different. Michael wondered why the Meteorological Bureau failed to predict such a severe storm. His Magus told him someone must have lured the Enders from afar. At that moment, Michael saw Tokyo equipment embedded in the Enders, but no sooner had he spoken than Tokyo stormed into the battlefield, destroying the evidence and pretending to know nothing. Just as the two were arguing, Ellie sent a distress call, but before she could finish, she was attacked. At the critical moment, an armored vehicle saved her. When she learned it was Kanata who rescued her, Ellie was overjoyed. But then she realized Kanata wasn't a drifter and urged him to flee, as he would only be in the way. However, Kanata couldn't stand by. He decided to pilot the mecha to help, but when he reached the mecha, he hesitated. It turned out Kanata had taken the Adventure Alliance's aptitude test 3 years ago and was told he had no talent. But during those low days, Tokyo had always been by his side, constantly encouraging him. Thinking of this, Kanata no longer hesitated. Even if he wasn't a drifter, he would join the battle. Meanwhile, the monster leader had broken through to the inner perimeter. Ellie's strength alone was no match for it. She was quickly overwhelmed by the Big Enders. Just as the Big Enders prepared to deliver the final blow, Kanata arrived at the battlefield in his mech. However, without a Magus partner, he couldn't fully control the mech and was soon sent flying by the monster. Just when Kanata thought he was done, a girl appeared on the screen. She instructed Kanata to open the mech and allow her inside. The next second, the mech's back opened automatically, and the girl stepped right in. Meanwhile, the Big Enders charged at Kanata, but he swiftly dodged. The mech now was a world apart from before. The girl then switched the mech's mode, and in an instant, the cockpit transformed. She walked over to Kanata's side, And it was at this moment that Kanata realized this was the kind of image a drifter sees inside the mech. After successfully defeating the Big Enders, Kanata finally qualified to become a drifter. With the Big Enders defeated, the remaining Enders fled in panic, but Michael wouldn't let them escape, annihilating them all in a single strike. At that moment, Kanata learned from the mech's panel that the girl's name was Noir.
Yes, my name is Noir.
The three women clapping are not triplets but Magus, humanoid robots produced in the future world. They appear identical to humans and possess independent thinking abilities. The only difference is a triangular mechanism on their necks. By registering a fingerprint there, a Magus will recognize the person as its master and obey them loyally. Magus is extremely powerful, capable of managing daily tasks, offering advice, and even serving as a wireless charger. Their primary function is to collaborate with their masters in piloting the formidable Radels mechs, whose operators are called drifters. Kanata, who has always aspired to be a drifter, accidentally found a very special Magus. Although Noir is intact, she has inexplicably lost her memory and struggles with everything except fighting, where she excels. Tokyo suspects she might be the legendary Amasia Magus. To verify this, the group returned to the ruins where Noir was discovered. There, they found Noir's Radels mech and confirmed it was an Amasia model. However, the mech was severely damaged and no useful information was found. The screen only displayed the word Pascal, which Noir had no recollection of. Maria found an old civilization camera under the seat, and everyone hopes it might provide some clues. On the other side of the blockade, an armored car paraded through the streets. Ellie recognized the emblem of the Nebbiolo family. The person stepping out of the car was all too familiar. Range, the former second commander of the Adventure League, who had been expelled 2 years ago. After 2 years of rigorous training, Range's sole purpose here was to show off. Now holding a high position in the Nebbiolo family, he not only commanded the drifter troops but had also amassed a fortune. He even allowed his Magus to indulge in fresh vegetables more valuable than gold. He had transformed his once plain Magus into a star, exuding the air of a nouveau riche, but Tokyo wasn't buying any of it. He exposed Range's past embarrassments. Feeling humiliated, Range turned his anger toward Ellie. Kanata immediately stepped in front of Ellie. Range recognized Kanata as the loser he had eliminated 3 years ago during the Adventurer League's aptitude test. He even mocked Kanata, saying he didn't deserve to have a Magus. Kanata, ashamed, quietly left. Back at the base, he busied himself repairing the damaged Radels mech from the previous battle. Unable to help, Noir simply watched from the side before eventually falling asleep. Kanata and Mouton found this strange, as Magus were not supposed to sleep. The next morning, when Kanata woke up, Noir was gone. Along with her, the old camera had disappeared. Kanata assumed she was trying to recover memories of her past owner, but in reality, Noir simply wanted to help Kanata repair the camera. Unfortunately, Noir encountered Range at the market. Range, frustrated with his failed mission, learned Noir was Kanata's Magus and became greedy. By the time Kanata realized it, Noir was already on Range's armored vehicle. Range locked Noir up with 4 other Magus, and a singing Magus named Ciel, who struck up a conversation with Noir. Ciel even taught Noir how to charge the camera with her hands. Meanwhile, Ellie urged Kanata to rescue Noir immediately, but dejected Kanata said Noir deserved a better owner than him, someone like him. A failure didn't deserve a Magus. At the critical moment, Tokyo arrived and convinced Kanata to save Noir first. They then used the rocket booster, made by Maria, to catch up with Range's armored vehicle. Range, wary of Tokyo, ordered his men to open fire and sent out a drifter to intercept. Tokyo signaled Kanata to split up, and he engaged Range's drifter in combat. Range destroyed Kanata's rocket booster, but Kanata still managed to reach Range's armored vehicle in his Radels mech. Enraged, Range launched a furious attack on Kanata, constantly humiliating him, saying he didn't deserve to be a drifter. He offered to spare Kanata's life if he handed over his Magus and Radels mech, but Kanata refused. Hearing Kanata's words, Noir seemed to awaken her power. She broke free from the holding cell and rushed to fight alongside Kanata. She leaped from the top of the vehicle toward Kanata and successfully docked with the Radels mech in midair. Before Kanata could catch his breath, Range launched another fierce attack. Kanata ordered Noir to help him defeat the enemy, but this time Noir hesitated, fearing she might damage the mech again. However, Kanata dismissed her concerns. Without hesitation, Noir quickly disabled Range's mech. Range still hoped his subordinates would come to his aid, but they had already been wiped out by Tokyo. Just then, Michael arrived on the scene, forcing Range to retreat in disgrace with his Magus. Noir handed the repaired camera to Kanata, but it was empty. Kanata promised he would help Noir recover her memories, so she could return to her original owner. But Noir said she wanted her memories back only to help Kanata with household chores. All she really wanted was to stay by Kanata's side. Then Noir tilted her neck, and Kanata recorded his fingerprint on it.
I'd like you to stay as long as you'd like.
Yes.
Tokyo celebrated Kanata officially becoming a drifter by taking him to the Den of Desire to let him experience the joys of adulthood. In the next moment, Kanata was taken in by two sisters. Concerned that Noir might not find Kanata when she woke up, Tokyo left a message on the mech, clearly stating they had gone to the Den of Desire. This scene was accidentally witnessed by Kanata's childhood friend Ellie, who was both angry and helpless. After some thought, she decided to find Kanata so they could complete their work together for the day. On their way to the Den of Desire, they encountered a woman walking alone. The kind-hearted group took her into the car, and Ellie realized she was a Magus, warning her that wandering alone was dangerous. After some conversation, they learned the woman was named Schnee, who was also heading to the Den of Desire to find her master. Meanwhile, Kanata did not immediately receive the reward he wanted due to the high number of guests at the service club, causing a shortage of services. While waiting, Kanata felt both nervous and excited. Looking at the other guests, they appeared calm and experienced, but it turned out they were also first-timers. Meanwhile, Ellie and others arrived near the Den of Desire, only to find swarms of Enders rushing toward it. Ellie immediately decided to stay and assist the guards in defense, sending Noir and Schnee to find their masters. At that moment, it was finally Kanata's turn. Just as he was about to enter the room, an alarm from outside interrupted him. Kanata was deeply disappointed. Suddenly, the door opened, and Schnee and Noir entered one after another, informing them of the Enders' invasion. Without hesitation, Kanata joined the fight.
Good. Then you and I can take care of the rest of these small fries.
When Ellie was in danger, he appeared in time to save her. However, lacking combat experience, he could only trap the enemy without knowing how to deal with them effectively. Fortunately, Ellie stepped in to finish off the enemy. Ellie told Kanata he was not fighting alone, so there was no need to rush when trapping enemies. Then Ellie asked Kanata to cover her while she prepared to take out the mid-level Enders. Even with Noir's assistance, Kanata could still feel his own weakness. He realized that if he wanted to fight on the front lines, he had to become stronger to be a suitable drifter for Noir. Noir responded to Kanata's determination, and in an instant, they fought alongside the Enders. Unexpectedly, the Watcher Ellie had restrained suddenly changed its target and attacked Kanata. Just when Kanata thought he couldn't hold out, a white mech appeared in his vision, slicing the Watcher in half with a single strike. It was Schnee and her master. Facing the hordes of Enders, Kanata wanted to cover them, but Noir told him it wasn't necessary. As expected, the Enders were as insignificant as ants in front of them, with their overwhelming strength leaving the Enders no chance to fight back. The man only attacked enemies in front, while those behind were left to Schnee. The vastly different fighting style left Kanata and others in awe. Finally, with Schnee's cooperation, the man piloted the mech soaring into the sky, slaughtering all the fleeing enemies. Although Kanata became a drifter, he was still a complete novice. To get stronger, Kanata asked Tokyo to take him for field training. They arrived in a canyon where low-level Enders occasionally passed by. Kanata told Noir not to control the mech, insisting he would take the lead to defeat the enemies. However, living up to his reputation as a novice, he failed to hit a single target despite multiple gunfire. Instead, the Enders split into two groups to encircle him. In that moment, Kanata panicked and was knocked to the ground by one of the Enders. Unwilling to accept defeat, he got up and attacked again. But even after his mech sustained severe damage, he still couldn't defeat a single one. Just as Tokyo was about to intervene, a black mech appeared in the sky out of nowhere. Kanata recognized the same attack style as Shnee's. The black mech jumped down from the cliff and landed in front of Kanata. After the incident, Kanata approached to thank them, and the mech's hatch opened, revealing a well-built woman. She immediately gave Kanata a small lesson, scolding him for being too careless as a drifter while pressing her ample figure against him. That wasn't all. Her magus also tugged at Kanata, acting coquishly. The woman introduced herself as Claudia, and her magus was named Flam. She had a request for Kanata, the novice, to help, but it was clearly a malicious offer. Yet Kanata still fell for it. Claudia led the group to a chrysanthemum field. While everyone admired the flowers, Tokyo had already set his sights on the massive crystal nearby. It was clear Claudia couldn't mine it alone and needed someone to fend off the enders that might appear at any time. That's why she recruited Kanata, an easy-to-deceive novice. The group temporarily agreed to cooperate. During their downtime, Kanata helped repair the mech, earning Claudia's gratitude. She was either bestowing favors or on her way to doing so, making the naive Kanata completely trust her. Eventually, Kanata, eager to hone his skills, volunteered to take charge of the main defense while Claudia mined the crystal under their protection. At night, Kanata spotted a mid-level enders approaching, but he didn't lose heart. He focused entirely on the battle. This time, he was well prepared. As the enders entered range, Kanata decisively detonated the pre-placed bombs. Falling rocks immobilized most of the enders, and Kanata chained up the stragglers, eliminating them one by one. However, 2 managed to escape. Kanata sensed trouble, but luckily, Tokyo intervened, using the enders as vehicles to destroy them.
Looks like your follow-through needs work. It's close, but I think we can call that a passing grade.
Afterward, Kanata went to check on Claudia's mining progress, only to find her gone. She had already taken the crystal and left.
Next time you tell me more about that dream, okay? See you soon. Alright, guys.
Though he didn't get any crystal, Kanata's primary goal was self-improvement, so he didn't feel at a loss. Instead, he reaped several unexpected benefits. This is the most foolish man I've ever seen. Just because of a stranger's lie, he ventured alone into the legendary desert maze. Without GPS signal, he got lost in the maze immediately after entering. Then he was ambushed by unknown Radels mechs. It was obvious he had fallen into a trap. Soon, more enemies appeared, laying an inescapable net from the ground to the air. Kanata struggled to escape, but was eventually surrounded. The unknown mechs didn't speak to Kanata. They immediately tried to force open the Magus cockpit. It turned out their target wasn't Kanata, but Noir. Just a day ago, someone in the base had obtained an extremely rare crystal. Kanata and Noir recognized it as the one Claudia had stolen from them at Landmark 13. Sure enough, during the bounty distribution, Claudia appeared behind Kanata. Facing Kanata, she showed no shame. Instead, she tempted him again with the secret to becoming an excellent drifter. Kanata naturally wouldn't fall into the same trap twice, but Claudia's words were so convincing that Kanata couldn't stop thinking about them even after returning to the base. She said to become stronger, one must achieve the unity of drifter and magus. In simple terms, it means developing a partnership like a married couple. The easiest way to build this synergy is to explore the legendary desert maze together. Successfully navigating it would bring a qualitative leap. However, venturing into such a dangerous maze was too risky, so Kanata decided to first cultivate a partnership with Noir, like a married couple. They ate together, drank together, worked together, and even slept together, yet this approach yielded little effect, causing confusion for Ellie.
Kanata and I became husband and wife.
Ellie nearly fought Noir upon hearing this. It seemed the method wasn't working, but Kanata was determined to grow stronger. Encouraged by Noir, the two set out for the desert maze. However, the moment they left the base, they were spotted by Claudia, who had been waiting. She immediately made a phone call. Soon after, Kanata was ambushed by unknown mechs in the maze. Fortunately, Kanata had left a message for Tokyo before departing. Just as the enemy was about to pry open the Magus cockpit, an explosion rang out. Tokyo repelled the attackers with lightning speed, accompanied by Ellie and Michael. Michael fired a shot at a building across the way, where Claudia was hiding. Seeing her about to escape, Kanata chased after her under the cover of his companions. He wanted to uncover the wicked woman's true intentions. Despite Claudia setting various traps, Kanata caught up and chained her tightly. Claudia, with no choice, used a flash grenade to break free. She told Kanata that someone was offering a high price for a Type 0 Magus. She had already sent Flam, but for some reason it was returned. Type 0 Magus were extremely rare. To claim the hefty reward, she had decided to target Noir, as repairing and maintaining Flam, a Type 0 Magus, was far too expensive. She immediately launched an attack on Kanata. Type 0 Magus was extremely powerful, and Claudia and Flamme worked together seamlessly. Within minutes of fighting, Kanata was at a disadvantage, but Kanata refused to surrender. Suddenly, he recalled the previous battle when Claudia's Radel's mech had sustained damage to its left arm. If she hadn't repaired it yet, that would be her fatal weakness. Before he could finish thinking, Noir approached. She guessed Kanata had a plan because every time Kanata came up with an idea, his nostrils would expand by 2 centimeters. This was their tacit understanding. Kanata conveyed his idea of targeting the enemy mech's left arm to Noir, who immediately locked onto the target while Kanata maneuvered the mech to evade attacks. In a single strike, they successfully pierced Claudia's mech's left arm. Kanata and Noir emerged victorious, but instead of confronting Claudia, Kanata told her about an excellent mechanic who could repair Flamme at a very low price, so Claudia wouldn't have to resort to wrongdoing for money. Meanwhile, Tokyo and others repelled the enemy mechs, but they still didn't know who these people were.
But you're not really going to trust that loser, are you?
Got a feeling we'll be seeing you again.
The man set up a bet. Whoever could survive the last in the mech arena would win the treasure in his hands. Upon hearing this, everyone placed their bets, and even Noir sold her beloved camera to join the fight. What kind of reward could make them so eager? 2 hours ago, the sky suddenly turned to acid rain, forcing the crystal mining operation to halt. To avoid Ender's attacks, Tokyo led everyone to a nearby den of greed for shelter. The place was brightly lit and bustling with noise, filled with shouts and cries. Clearly, it was a casino. Tokyo told Kanata there were no rules here, anything could be used as a bet. With enough courage, a bicycle could turn into a motorcycle. Then Tokyo exchanged the freshly mined AO crystals for 2 packs of chips, giving the smaller one to Kanata and keeping the larger one for himself. Kanata didn't mind as he had no interest in gambling. However, the moment he stepped into the hall, he was stunned by its grandeur. Just 2 minutes later, before Kanata could even grasp the situation, Tokyo had already lost everything but his underwear. Fortunately, his Magus Mouton intervened in time, saving Tokyo from the embarrassment of running naked. Deep in the hall, a melodious song echoed, drawing many people in. Noir recognized the voice and melody. Upon closer look, it was Ciel, the one who had repaired her camera. Ciel also recognized Noir, and the two exchanged greetings. Noir showed off the photos Kanata had taken of her, which made Ciel envious. After all, she was still a magus without a master. She had been wandering and singing, hoping to find her perfect owner. Then she stepped back and took the first group photo of Kanata and Noir. After parting with Ciel, Kanata encountered the masked man he had spoken to at the Den of Desire at the card table. Though both were first-time visitors to the casino, their outcomes were worlds apart. Kanata lost everything, while the masked man won big. Schnee told Noir that she and her master were searching for a lost key. Meanwhile, in the restaurant, Range devoured synthetic meat in huge bites. He had suffered heavy losses from Ender's attacks and now needed a large sum of money to rebuild his team. A familiar song instantly lifted his spirits, and he turned to see Ciel, who had escaped during the chaos. Range rushed onto the stage, gripping Ciel's wrist tightly, then had his Magus display the subjugation contract between them. Ciel realized she had been deceived. The passenger agreement she had signed was actually a slave contract. Kanata and the masked man came to help, but with the contract in hand, they couldn't act forcefully. Several adventurers in the audience began clamoring to buy Ciel. Sensing an opportunity, Range proposed a fight to the death wager, with the winner claiming Ciel's contract. The adventurers placed high bets. Kanata wanted to join the game to rescue Ciel, but he had just lost all his chips, and Tokyo had even lost his Radel's mech, leaving him no hope. Without hesitation, Noir sold her beloved camera. The match begins. 7 drifters fight fiercely in the arena. Kanata's strength has improved dramatically recently. Fortunately, these adventurers are second-rate. so Kanata handles them with ease. In just 2 minutes, only one enemy remains on the field, a heavily armored mech known for its defense. Kanata's machine gun bullets fail to penetrate its armor. However, Noir quickly identifies the mech's weakness: its slow movements. Auto-aim mode should easily defeat it. The last enemy is defeated, but Range, the rogue, refuses to honor the bet. He surrounds Kanata with 3 underlings, clearly taking advantage of the situation. At the critical moment, a bag of chips is thrown from the sky, followed by a snow-white Radels mech descending. It's the masked man and Schnee. The masked man says he'll handle the 3 minions, while Kanata must settle his own score with Range. Facing the man who has helped him repeatedly, Kanata wants to know his name, but the masked man says it's not the time to reveal it. With ammunition exhausted, Kanata is forced into close combat with Range, which is exactly what Range wants. In less than 3 rounds, Kanata is overpowered and on the verge of losing. Just then, Schnee notices something is wrong. Noir seems to be awakening some power. The immense strength Noir displays makes Tokyo and CL realize something. After rescuing CL from Range, Kanata annulled the contract and granted her freedom. With nowhere to go, CL temporarily stayed at Kanata's place. Due to Noir's awakening skills being too astonishing, Kanata sent her to Maria for a full-body check. The house was left with only Kanata and CL. Hearing that Noir wasn't around, Ellie seized the opportunity to get closer to Kanata, only to walk in and see CL.
My dear. My dear.
Kanata greeted Ellie briefly and told CL not to address him that way. Watching the two flirt, Ellie nearly fainted with anger. Though she knew CL was just a magus and not a real human, seeing CL suck Kanata's injured finger into her mouth made Ellie explode in rage. To repay Kanata for saving her life, CL took care of all his household chores. She not only cooked meals but also tenderly wiped Kanata's sweat and tidied his underwear. While Kanata worked, she even sang sweet songs for him. During casual conversation, Kanata told CL about finding Noir in the wild and said he would gladly let her go if she found her previous owner. After hearing this, CL developed a fondness for Kanata. She even invited him to bathe together, saying it would allow them to scrub each other's backs and save water. Seeing CL in a bathrobe made Kanata's face turn red. At night, he courteously offered the bed to her and chose to sleep in a hammock instead. CL didn't understand why Kanata did this, since Magus didn't need sleep. Kanata explained that Noir loved sleeping, so he thought CL would too. This touched CL deeply. Even though she and Noir were just robots, Kanata treated them like humans, which made her feel special. Kanata said he had always treated Magus this way because his mother was one. His father had also been a drifter, who was particularly passionate about exploring the world before the Tears of the New Moon disaster. Kanata grew up without a mother, so his father's Magus had always played that role. Under her meticulous care, Kanata grew up happily. Unfortunately, this didn't last long. In a battle against the Ender's boss, both his parents were taken from him, but Kanata didn't let this defeat him. He resolved to find the legendary city of Histoire to fulfill his father's dream. Kanata poured his heart out to CL, unaware that that very night, CL climbed to the top of the base and sent a report to the organization. The next day, CL was doing her usual chores, but Kanata noticed something was off about her because she wasn't singing today and had lost her previous enthusiasm. He felt his words might have unintentionally hurt CL, so he borrowed Tokyo's armored vehicle and took CL straight to a place outside the base. CL didn't know Kanata's intentions, but the organization had clearly given orders the day before. If Noir was the key, then Kanata, the current owner, was a potential threat to the organization. If he refused to give up Noir, he would be immediately eliminated. To protect this naive boy, CL decided to let Kanata take a short nap while she would take the opportunity to take Noir away. Just as CL was about to act, Kanata slammed on the brakes, disrupting her plan. They arrived at their destination, the ruins of an opera house. Kanata hoped CL would sing her heart out here to regain her previous joy. The song reminded Kanata of his parents, and CL was moved by Kanata, making her non-human heart beat again. Just as a song finished playing, acid rain began to fall from the sky. A group of Enders approached them. Noir was not present. Kanata asked CL to control the Radels mech with him to fight the Enders. Although it was their first time cooperating, the two worked together seamlessly. It was then that Kanata realized CL could also use skills. After 2 minutes of fierce combat, they successfully defeated the enemy. The next night, Noir returned to the base after her checkup. Kanata, still concerned, asked Noir if Maria had installed any strange programs in her, but Noir didn't understand what he meant. Meanwhile, CL became even more affectionate toward Kanata, knowing she had finally found her dream perfect master. Kanata arranged a team-building event for his harem to maintain family harmony, but his infidelity led his wife to pull a gun on him. Ellie, who had never worn pink lipstick before, was excited for her date with Kanata, only to find out she wasn't the only one invited. This made her furious, especially as the other rivals seemed to get closer to Kanata than she did. The only comfort was that her top rival CL didn't show up. At the water park, the harem was thrilled. Just as everyone was about to change, Ellie was abruptly dragged away by Maria and Ange, who declared the timing perfect. Claudia and Flam, eager for some drama, quickly followed. Maria wanted to use this opportunity to have Ellie confess to Kanata and establish their relationship, dubbing the plan Operation Kanata Showdown. Though Ellie protested, she was secretly excited. However, Maria felt Ellie's swimsuit was too plain to arouse Kanata's desire, so she produced a sexy swimsuit she had prepared, promising Kanata would fall for Ellie instantly if she wore it. Helplessly, Maria pulled out a seemingly ordinary pink swimsuit, which was actually a swimsuit that turned transparent when in contact with water. Ellie declined Maria's offer and finally chose her own blue swimsuit. The conversation among the others left Noir confused, and not understanding the truth. She only remembered a few keywords. She thought they were going to attack some target. Ellie walked softly in front of Kanata. Despite not choosing those sexy swimsuits, Kanata was still stunned, staring at Ellie with his eyes fixed and unable to look away. This ambiguous atmosphere made both of them feel awkward. Seeing this, the other girls quickly added fuel to the fire nearby. Kanata, extremely shy, made up an excuse and ran away, but he still stared at Ellie from a distance. It was only when he saw Noir, who could rival Ellie, that he finally looked away. Kanata admitted he couldn't swim and hoped Ellie could teach him. Ellie's face turned red with joy, but still asked why Kanata chose her. Kanata replied that among them, only Ellie seemed normal. Suddenly, the venue darkened. Then dazzling spotlights lit up as Tokyo appeared center stage as the host, announcing that singing superstar CL would perform next. CL emerged from below the stage and sang a moving song, electrifying the crowd, who raised their hands to applaud and tip. Tokyo collected the coins, making a fortune. After the performance, CL immediately went to Kanata's side, completing the harem. CL holding Kanata's hand made Ellie jealous. When she heard CL was going to chase dreams with Kanata, Ellie finally broke down and left in tears. Her reaction wasn't just jealousy. As a child, she had mocked Kanata's dreams, which had haunted her and become the biggest obstacle to their relationship. Kanata chased after her, accidentally grabbing her neck when trying to pull her back, causing Ellie to fall into the pool. Unfortunately, Ellie's legs cramped instantly from running too hard, and she nearly drowned. At the critical moment, a handsome figure appeared out of nowhere. It was the very same Kanata, who couldn't swim. After waking up, Ellie learned that Kanata had saved her, and even performed mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on her. Seeing Kanata's flushed face, Ellie also blushed in shyness. That night, Kanata came to visit Ellie, and the two talked a lot on the rooftop. Ellie apologized for mocking Kanata's dreams when they were young, but Kanata looked completely bewildered because he had long forgotten about it. All he remembered was the silly girl Ellie, who had always helped him. Upon hearing this, Ellie's face turned red, and she playfully pounded Kanata's chest with her little fists. Unexpectedly, Kanata slipped, and the two fell to the ground in an extremely awkward position. Ellie asked Kanata if he had really kissed her during the day. Kanata explained that he had intended to do so, but was violently stopped by Ange at the last moment, so Ellie's first kiss was still intact. Just then, Noir arrived on the scene, lifted her water gun, and drenched Kanata's face with water. She had mistaken the group's attack in the changing room as targeting Kanata, and had come to protect him specifically. This is a banana protected by bulletproof glass, with security personnel monitoring it around the clock. After the Great Catastrophe, such fresh fruit has become extremely rare, and this single banana can even sell for 890,000. Meanwhile, behind Kanata, who was buying parts, stood a powerful man. Kanata only needed one glance to feel ashamed in his presence. After collecting his items, the man silently left. Kanata then tried to ask the shop owner who this man was. Upon investigation, it turned out to be the legendary drifter Alba. Rumors say he single-handedly caused a hellish extinction event, walks unprotected in acid rain, and can even forge Magus skills. The Magus beside him is custom-made to his preferences. Hearing this, Kanata saw hope, as he had long wanted to restore Noir's memory. He rushed over to ask for help, but Alba ignored his request outright, declaring he had no interest in talking to an insignificant nobody. Only then did Kanata realize he had been too hasty. The next day, the two went to the mall to shop but saw Alba's Magus. Kanata immediately introduced himself, apologized for his rash actions the day before, and invited the Magus girl to dinner. Actually, he wanted to ask her master for help in restoring Noir's memory, so he hoped his Magus could act as a bridge. After a satisfying meal, Alba's Magus agreed to take them to meet her master. To better understand the reason, Ada asked about everything related to Noir. However, Kanata said he found her in a garbage dump, lying asleep in the flowers. After all, such a beautiful sleeping beauty had to be taken away. Only later did they discover she had been asleep for 10,000 years, with no memory of her past. Then Ada took them to her master's house and treated them as hospitably as possible, preparing authentic coffee for the two. As night fell, Alba returned. Kanata immediately stood up to greet him but was ignored by Alba. However, Ada, who had accepted Kanata's bribe of a meal, helped smooth things over. She thought her master shouldn't be so aloof and should overcome his social anxiety to listen to Kanata's story. When Kanata mentioned that Noir had also lost her memory, it stirred something in Alba, who then asked Kanata to tell her story. On the other side, the dark matter surprisingly possessed the dilapidated mecha. The drinking trio also received a bounty order, and it was discovered that enders were lurking nearby. Completing these bounties would bring a substantial amount of money into their pockets. Meanwhile, Alba used her self-made high-tech device to restore Noir's memory, but afterward, she would fall into sleep mode. Kanata felt a little nervous, but Ada reassured him, saying his master was a professional after all.
After I awaken, I hope to remember everything I had forgotten.
Just then, they also received news of an Ender's invasion. Alba told Kanata to guard the place while she and her Magus headed to the battlefield. The trio of adventurers arrived at the scene first, but despite their continuous shooting, it had no effect on the enemy. These parasitic dark matter could heal continuously, and these three mediocre adventurers were no match for them. When the monsters counterattacked, the dark matter instantly pierced the man's mecha. The next second, Alba arrived and coldly ordered everyone to step aside, believing that the weak were only in the way here. Although the duo was displeased, seeing Alba effortlessly defeat the Enders, they acknowledged that he had the right to be arrogant. The duo quickly retreated. Alba, aiming for a swift victory, had Ada conduct data analysis before charging forward to quickly eliminate some of the lesser enemies. Meanwhile, Kanata was watching Alba's strength in a live stream, but the broadcast was cut off the next second.
Do it.
Variation coefficient, no abnormalities. Securing range. All enemies locked on. Ignition.
The next day, Noir also woke up. The examination results showed no abnormalities. Unfortunately, her memory still had not recovered. At this point, Alba came to explain. He believed Noir's memory processor was overloaded, and her chip storage space was abnormally installed. It was possible that this was the issue, or that Noir was the original defective specimen, or even a sacrificed experimental subject. However, Alba thought the only problem was that she was more human-like and occasionally needed to sleep, with no other issues.
I am still considered a dud.
I should apologize for still being a hack.
How should we respond when a purple storm appears in the sky? There's no need to respond at all, because this isn't a natural disaster. It's a swarm of parasitic enders arriving. They leave nothing alive in their wake. Meanwhile, everyone else is still laughing and chatting, unaware of the impending catastrophe. Suddenly, all receive Ma'am's urgent summoning order, and the capable adventurers rush to the scene. However, the crisis proves far more terrifying than imagined. Every marked town on the map has fallen, and even the energy crystals have been stolen. All this is caused by the parasitic Enders, with even suspicions of human involvement. Ma'am orders an investigation into the matter's origins. Watching so many towns fall, the next target is their own village. Amidst the tense preparations, no one pays any attention to Kanata driving him frantic. He immediately begs Mom for a position, only to be flatly refused by Tokyo behind him, who dismisses Kanata as weak and tells him to stay in town with the elderly and children. Kanata refuses to accept this, insisting he must go to the front lines to investigate. Tokyo, wanting what's best for him, still refuses, until Mom steps in and allows Kanata to go. The next day, Kanata and Tokyo went to the scrapyard to investigate, but Tokyo was reluctant to take Kanata on this adventure. However, when they arrived, they found the place in ruins, with no signs of life at all. Kanata couldn't accept this reality and went deeper to see if everyone was hiding. Tokyo grabbed him, believing it would be dangerous to go in without knowing the situation. Frustrated, Kanata pushed Tokyo away and went to explore alone, so the two parted ways. Suddenly, Enders burst out of the ground. After Tokyo dealt